there are a couple of sampling methods that you can use. You can use probability sampling, so that's pretty self-explanatory. You're gonna rely on the laws of probability when you do that. And the other sort of bucket, the other family of sampling methodologies is going to be that of the non-probability sampling, which of course, again, does exactly what it says on the tin. It's going to be using sampling methodologies that are not based on the laws of probability. So what I want you to know, this is a little bit dry, okay? So I don't want you to spend too much time here, but I probably want you to know examples of probability sampling and non-probability sampling, and and just know a little bit about what they are, okay? Be able to explain them in case there are qualitative questions on the day. Okay, so let's start with the first one, right? Simple random sampling. This is where you're going to take all your population, obviously the part of the population you've got access to, and you are going to simply choose some items randomly from the population. So each member of the population is going to have the same chance of being selected as a member of your sample, right? So that's the first technique, is the simplest technique. The second technique is the systematic technique, and this is where, for example, you're going to use some sort of method. You're going to have a method to your madness. You're going to have a system. For example, you might be choosing every 10th member, right? So I don't know why you would want to do that, but maybe there's a reason for that. So you're going to be choosing every 10th member of the population when you're sampling. Then you've got the stratified sampling, and that's where you're going to be dividing your population into subpopulations, which are called strata. So strata is the plural and stratum is the singular. So each subpopulation is referred to as the stratum, and plurally they are referred to as the strata, as the subpopulations. And what you might do here is divide the data into some sort of representative categories in order to ensure that both categories or all categories get represented. For example, the categories could be men and women, right? So I'm going to make sure that I select, let's say, 5 members from the male category and 5 members from the female category. Had I used simple random sampling, I might have ended up with 10 men or 10 women, right? So you're trying to sort of make sure that each stratum is represented in your sample here. And then you've got cluster sampling. Now, cluster sampling, don't confuse it. It isn't the same thing as stratified sampling, because what you're going to do here is going to essentially create the so-called clusters. And these little clusters, they're mini populations. So in each cluster, you might have a few men and a few women, right? And then what you're going to do is going to be selecting from those clusters, okay? So it's a little bit different from stratified, but still based on the laws of probability. And then you've got non-probability sampling. You've got convenience sampling. So this is where your researcher perhaps has access to some data more cheaply, or simply he owns the database, so he doesn't need to go out and hunt for any additional data. So it's simply convenient. It's simply easy to access that data and do the analysis based on that data. Now, of course, ease and convenience come at the expense of probably giving up, some of your laws of probability, because that sample may not be representative, right? But obviously, as I said, the advantage is that it is cheaper, quicker, and easier. Judgmental sampling, well, that's where your researcher perhaps says, well, I've been in this industry for 25 years. I've got a huge amount of experience, and I know that if I select this particular sample, it's gonna be representative of the population. Okay, so they somehow go out of their ways, they sort of violate the laws of probability, but they say, look, we can take this sample here and we know that it's gonna do a good job. Okay, and so obviously here you are intimately reliant on the so-called experience of this researcher.